Welcome to this episode of YouTube where we're obviously talking about the post-challenge behavior, and we are seeing some much better associative behavior from Denali. You can see him here going where the rest of the pack is going, wagging their tails. They're a little bit of caution as Grizzer comes around the back of the wood line. There is a little bit of chasing yet, but you'll see overall things are better. Grizzer's in a good attitude, carrying his body posture pretty well. We noticed a limp yesterday morning we were filming this, and not sure what that's about, but as I see them change directions and go left to right pretty quickly, could just be a sore foot or a sore joint, but he has no problem moving. As you saw, his head there is still weeping a little bit. Sutures are holding, which is good. We did take a microscope slide of the infection late last week, and are going to continue him on another bout of antibiotics, and we're trying a different course of antibiotics just to make sure. Certainly we have no desire to drug him at this point and take him out, because it is very critical right now that he maintains his status. And Denali, you can see here, being a little bit of a 2-year-old. They say that the terrible twos of humans is a stage that we go through, and we go through the same thing with wolves. The good thing is he's tail wagging. Again, socially engaging. He is trying to get direct eye contact from Grizzer here, but Grizzer is averting his gaze, not engaging him in any conflict. And Denali's ears are back, which is important. They're not prick forward. They're not excitable ear posture. They're off to the side and they're pricked back, and that's a good thing. And actually, I didn't get it on film, but he does a play bow, which is another real good behavior. We also see, again, we know the tension's really low because Aidan's pretty active, and that's always a good sign for us. Aidan's like the barometer of tension in this world. If he's able to freely move around, he's been feeding on the deer. The excess deer, as you see, is piled up here. We're feeding excess deer just to kind of keep them, make sure that food and food competition is not going to contribute to a little bit of tension. And so Denali's been taking advantage of, Aidan's been taking advantage of that. And you can see Denali here try to put a paw on Grizzer's head, do a little bit of testing behavior, but Grizzer manages to maintain himself pretty well. And as we have said in many, many times before, when wolf care staff are in filming, we do encourage a little bit of possessiveness about the wolves towards the wolf care staff. And here what Denali tries to do, Denali tries to put himself next to the wolf care staff, and Grizzer is blocking him. Grizzer doesn't want him engaging in wolf care staff contact, and so he was quite more dominant with the wolf care staff in there than when we're not in there. As a matter of fact, when we're not in there, we provide straw beds, and they pretty much just been resting. And we're getting a clear indication of also Grizzer's status from Maya as we come in middle of the day or later in the day. We're seeing Grizzer and Maya laying together in a pair binding association. Denali was actually laying up on the slate den when I came in here today to record this, and Aidan was laying on one of the rocks, which is pretty unusual for him. And you can see here Denali obviously rubbing up against wolf care staff while we're filming. That's another good sign. Denali had been very reluctant to come near wolf care staff in previous weeks, so the post-challenge has seen some improvements there. In this clip, you'll see Denali doing a little bit of, started to play bow actually. I didn't get it on video, but he did do a play bow to Grizzer, which is inviting chase, which Grizzer accommodated. But as you see, these chases are short-lived. There's a little bit of Denali 2-year-old behavior, grabbing Grizzer's tail, but Grizzer is a very calm, dominant male. He is not aggressive. He's not dominating with any intensity that would make Grizzer or make Denali more fearful. And that's fortunate for Denali. If that were Shadow, first of all, if there was Shadow, there's no way Denali would have gotten this far in the testing process without being pinned to the ground and showing his status. Grizzer doesn't do that, and actually what's hard to imagine is Grizzer really is the one carrying all the bite wounds in this situation. Denali, even though he did the challenge and he did start all of this, he really doesn't have a scratch on him, and this is all Grizzer that's been dealing with the injuries from this. And again, Grizzer's attitude is good. He's healing well. We will continue to try to clean that wound as much as he'll allow. Right now he'll allow hands to clean it. He'll allow, he actually rubs up against us with it, but as soon as you bring some kind of a cleaning object or any kind of medical material towards him, he goes the other way. So we're having to try to deal with that, which is typical wolf. The other thing to note here, here's Aidan along the fence line watching the retired wolves. And notice how relaxed his tail is. He is not even watching behind him. He's watching Shadow get fed some chicken over on the other side of the world. And that's a great sign. Maya's behind him. He shows no concern whatsoever where Maya is, and that's something that he doesn't do very often. Usually he's got one ear for sure back and one eye towards what Maya's up to. And here Maya is going to come walking right behind him. And you don't see any concern whatsoever, not even a turnaround to face her. That is calm, and that is, again, what we hope for and what we hope we can maintain through the winter time. Okay, one of the other things you'll notice here is that Aidan does a foreleg stab to Grizzer, and Grizzer pays no concern towards Aidan whatsoever. So having Denali back in the pack helps Aidan, because he gets to jaw spar with his litter mate again. So that is a good thing for Aidan. Over in retirement, we do see again Malik's sign of his face is showing no more abscess. That little black spot there, we thought that came back right after we quit the last set of antibiotics, but no problems with it. Shadow continues to RLU whenever he gets a chance with a full scrape, and that includes on top of the straw beds on top of the den, so we're tending to put in straw quite a bit these days. But overall, lots of snow here, and we've been experiencing, again, the joys of chain link fence and snow overhangs, but so far everything's been fairly easy to manage. Snow depths are, again, over a foot of snow right now, and it's December 3rd, and winter starts on December 21st, so we've got a little bit of time here before winter hits. But the wolves do enjoy snow, especially the Arctics. It's certainly what they're designed for. They deal much better with cold than they do with heat. One thing we have been noticing is a little posturing, and here you can see Malik approaching Shadow, and he walks slower. He picks his body up a little bit taller. He raises his tail. That's status, and these guys are not immune to dominance rank order displays during the winter time. That's just a hormonal cycle that occurs during the winter. Aggression and dominance are heightened usually around January, February, so we expect to see that. We are curious that what Shadow is going to do about Malik just kind of posturing around him, but at this point, Shadow doesn't show too much concern about it. He postures back, but he doesn't really have any kind of concern on what the end result is going to be, which means that Malik might try for a little status. But at this point, 10 going on 11, I think the rank order is pretty well set. I don't see Malik encouraging any challenge. The only thing Malik can do, which he has done already, is intimidate Shadow about feeding, and that's something that we're dealing with as a management plan and may have to deal with for the rest of Shadow's life, is that he requires smaller amounts hand-fed by wolf care staff and not having to compete with Malik for food. As I said, we are still giving them carcasses and allowing him an opportunity to still feed if he wants, but we're not relying on him feeding that way. We are monitoring that pretty closely. The next clips that you're looking at are surveillance camera video during one of the snowstorms. You can see the snow starting to come down. We've been having a lot of wind with these storms, so we do want to pay attention to what kind of cover the wolves have. In the wild, they wouldn't use any cover. They'd just be out in the snow. It's not a problem for wolves to be out. But this is a captive facility, and our job is to do best management practices. And so we do use straw beds inside the den as well as above the den. Here you actually see Malik inside the den and Shadow on the top. The den is big enough to fit them both, but it depends upon the attitude and the sprawl factor, how much space is being taken up by a wolf inside. The response of them both getting up at the same time is likely keyed into wolf care staff coming in for the day. You see Shadow shake off some of that snow and has a change in location here. This is a reverse where Shadow's inside the den. Malik tries to come in and actually share some of that den space, but Shadow's a little bit too sprawled out to be able to allow him to come in. So Malik does what we call a curl rest. Again, circling, which is a bedding behavior, either packing down snow or packing down grass if it's the summertime. But that circling behavior is common wolf behavior. And how he rests is actually important. A wolf that curls up to rest is probably not as thermally warm, meaning that their body temperatures may be affected by external conditions. Curling up their body, tucking their tail down into under their bellies, and curling themselves up tight means that those wolves are a little bit more uncomfortable or possibly a little colder, and something that would require, in the wild again, maybe a situation where that wolf would be up and mobile more often, or trying to warm themselves. What's interesting is Malik gets up and goes over to the dug den that Shadow used. First he tries the smaller den, which none of them like the smaller den because they can't sprawl out in it. Then he tries the dug den that Shadow had dug earlier that year under the white pine, and that's full of snow. So he decides that's not going to work. And then later eventually comes back, and Shadow does let him into the den at a later switch. But if it is a problem that Shadow's not letting him into the den, we will, try to do whatever we can to make accommodations for him. But there are so many times where we see Malik inside and Shadow outside, we know that they're not really having issues. And really cold weather is not a problem. So anyway, so we just, like I say, wanted to report on the post challenging issues in the main pack. And as you can see, Denali's testing continues, but Grizzer has no problems maintaining status. And Aidan is calm. That means the pack is calm, and we're happy to report that. And the fact that we're seeing them all together again, granted sometimes teeth bared and a little growling, but they're all together again, and certainly Grizzer and Maya socially interacting and showing pair bonding means that this pack is pretty well settled at this point with the rank order. Can always be changes. It's a wolf pack. That's what wolves do. But for right now, we're pretty happy with the results. So thanks for watching.